and then Chad Brewer and Nancy Vinley. Jana Watt.
Thank you. And if it's all right, before I start my time, I'd love to ask one more question because just to be clear, I want to make sure I understand it. So when you're talking about lowering the speed limits, we're going to go from 55 to 45, from 73 to about Beaver Dam. And then in a second phase, start from 45 to 35 at some future point. If it's an enforcement issue, why is that different? You're going to go from 55 to 45. So I'm just not, it's not clicking all the way through because that's a very rural area as well. And if we're saying that people are going to drive the speeds they're comfortable, I don't understand the pathway there, because usually as you come down, and I went ahead and made a little graphic of my own today, and I wanted to show you, so it was this rural conversation versus suburban. So just take a quick peek. Oh, this one's sideways. So take a quick look, and these are all our NCDOT roads. And I don't know, I could take a show of hands and say, do they look rural or suburban to you? What does that look like? Rural? I'm just going to throw out a guess. I'm going to say rural. And if you look a little closer, there's speed limit signs all over. I've got 25, 35, and I think one might go up to 40. Okay? So these are our, I guess, suburban roads based on the speed limit. Now, here's Davidson Concord at the crosswalk. And I can only get one in there. I don't have a professional camera. I've just got a simple iPhone. So there's Davidson Concord. And these were all within 30 minutes of one another. I didn't set the time up to go out at 6 a.m. or come out at 8 o'clock at night. I went at noon, which is actually a pretty slow time on Davidson Concord Road, because let me tell you, at 8 a.m., it's a flippin' freeway. So, but look at the difference. What does that look like? Does that look suburban or rural? What do you think? Suburban?
Yeah.
But we're not going to lower the speed limit here, but it's 25 and 35 there. I can't understand that logic. I have tried. I talked with Kevin for 4 or 5 hours. We walked, we talked, we stood there, we watched traffic going by, and it isn't about the speed of the cars. They're actually pretty reasonable. They're doing 45. What it's about is when Eli and Cooper and my daughter Ava try to cross that street and a car is barreling down. They're not old enough to have logic to sense if the car is doing 45 or 35. But what I can tell you is at 35, she has a chance. She has a chance to survive the impact. At 45, her chance drops to 1 out of 10. That's where I'm passionate about this. And when we've started the conversation, I can't follow the logic. I feel like I'm a smart person. I've asked questions. I've done public records requests. I come to every meeting. I sit here and want to have a good dialogue and understand it. But when someone tells me that these two things are the same, I don't get it. It doesn't make sense. So then I said, all right, if it doesn't make sense, there must be an underlying reason, right? That's a logical conclusion, because bottom line is one's suburban, one's rural, one's 25, one's 45, but it has 2 crosswalks. But we're going to lower the speed limit where there's no park, no crosswalks, no pedestrian interaction, no soccer field, and no high school and middle school, because that makes sense. All right, okay. So I did a public records request, because there has to be a reason. There must be more here than meets the eye. So what I found out, because I would like to think, I really thought when this all started, when we moved in, they must have made a mistake. 45 miles an hour, there's a crosswalk, it's a school bus stop. This is insane. Nope, found out through all my emails and conversations. I sent video of kids almost being hit. I sent video of people trying to cross the street and couldn't. Nope, NCDOT problem. It looks and it acts rural. That's what I kept hearing. So I'm like, this is just not quite gelling for me. So I did a public records request. And, because there must be an answer somewhere. I sent one to NCDOT, and I sent one to the town. The one from NCDOT came back, there were 3 total emails. 3 in 2 years between this town and NCDOT. Shocked, doesn't begin to cover it. But then I got one from Davidson. Guess what? It was pages long. Pages. The same guy from NCDOT was on all those pages. Wow, that was a surprise. So I started reading them because I thought, well, maybe here's the answer. Maybe this is what I'm looking for to help me understand why one's rural and one's not. I took the time to read the emails, and what I found out was there'd been a lot of conversation, just not public conversation. The conversation was between Brian, your firm, talking about a roundabout, talking about NCDOT saying, we'll gladly lower the speed limit if West Branch will build a roundabout. Funny, I didn't hear about that in any of the public meetings. And maybe that should have been. Maybe it was, hey, we're working hard on this. We've got a solution. But instead I keep getting told it's a rural road. That doesn't seem to fit for me. So I read more emails, and funny enough, there were those about that. And that could be, you know, obviously they're representing, Colgan Eston Stone is working for West Branch. That could be why they're in the meeting. But it begged the question to me is why that information wasn't shared further. There were no emails to the town after that email train. It was, in fact, 6 weeks later when one of your guys sent it to Jason and said, hey, not sure if you're part of this conversation, but we're okay with lowering the speed limit. Put in a roundabout and we'll lower it tomorrow. Pretty much what the email said. I'm paraphrasing. So bottom line, my only takeaway from that is there was a conversation, but it might not have been on behalf of the citizens here. That conversation was probably on behalf of somebody's client, and that just makes it a bit awkward. So there's citizen complaints about safety, but you know, that might not be why you're at the table. So when I couple that with the illogical statements from NCDOT, I just have to ask, who's representing us? Who cares whether Ava, Eli, and Cooper can get across the road? Because I haven't found an answer yet, and it's heartbreaking. That's why I don't have an agenda. I want to be able to cross the street. I want my daughter to get to the bus stop. And instead, I've pretty much, and part of that conversation might be, who's going to pay for the roundabout? Not my issue. If it's the developer, the town, NCDOT, figure it out. If the ordinance says the developer's responsible, make them pay. Or don't build the houses. It's easy. If it's Davidson's responsibility, then fine. Maybe we don't do the catalyst right now. Maybe we fund pedestrian safety improvements today. If it's the NCDOT, make them take responsibility. Put their feet to the fire, toll roads, whatever. We need to be able to cross the street safely in this town in an area that is built out. It's pretty built out now. It has bus stops, crosswalks, parks. So just do the right thing and lower the speed limit. Stop the hidden emails, the personal agendas, and the nonsense. Do what's right today for the taxpayers of Davidson and slow the road. I'll loan you my posters.
So first of all,